Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we'll sit down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing. We have 10 Things I Hate About You, directed by Jill Younger. We have Mean Girls from 2004 by Mark Waters. The Devil Wears Prada by David Frankel. Easy A by Will Gluck. And finally, Mean Girls, directed by Samantha Jane and Arturo Perez Jr. So it's going to be a great show, folks. Stay tuned and enjoy. Daly, how we doing, buddy?
Tommy boy, how's it going?
It's going okay. On this side of the table, how was your teen week? I mean, it was a teen week for you.
It was a teen week. Alternative title for this episode, folks, is How Many Times Can I Mention John Hughes Before Having a Stroke? Because, boy, did I do my homework on these type of movies in that John Hughes study. I mean, really.
I liked the films you went. I feel like you might have taken a bullet for the team. On this one,
I think we both took a bullet for the team.
We did.
Do you want to reveal?
Yes. Well, Vin and I went to go see the new Mean Girls movie together.
Right.
And
what went from it was going to be a rousing time with all of our friends. It was just Tom and I.
It was
by
just
the end
the two
of
of us.
We just walk in with snow boots and.
I had a good time.
Really? Wow.
Well, you know, with you going to see Mean Girls, the whole thing's hilarious. I told Vin after we left, there was a girl, I don't know, probably like 12, next to me.
Yeah.
Edge of her seat, bopping her head, clapping at one point, just so excited. And I turn over to see Vin slouched in his chair.
Melted.
It just melted with disappointment and annoyance. It was a very, very good theater watch for that.
Right. Yeah,
so,
it was an experience for sure.
I did not get it. I did not watch anything else, though.
Okay, hey, that's all right.
I was going to. I had time. I actually watched a lot of movies since we last spoke.
Okay.
Some research for birthday.
Oh, right.
And then some.
He's
I
testing
feel
the waters.
Some you would be happy that I've foregone. These movies.
Okay.
I've been going through the Alien movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I've never really seen a lot or any of them.
Interesting.
So I was like, all right, maybe it's time to do this.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying myself.
It's all over the map, right?
It's
really all over the map. I mean, the Alien franchise
really
is downright schizophrenic when it comes to tone and message it has to tell and directors.
I know. Quality of Prada.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you get into 3 and 4, and it's like, what is going on? Yeah.
So I took it upon myself that was my research study for myself.
Wow.
I've been going back through some old stuff too. Because
Okay.
now that we're deep into the podcast.
Yeah.
And I feel like I need to kind of like earn my stripes a little bit.
You've earned them.
But
You've earned them.
Go back into some of those films.
Yeah,
and
okay,
stuff.
fair.
Let's just say I have discovered, along with millions of others, but boy, am I really enjoying Paul Newman. I'm turning into a big Paul Newman fan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
So
is that a hint at some birthday choices?
No. I went into some thinking maybe birthday, but no.
What are the ones
Enjoyable.
you dropped? I'm dying to know.
Cool Hand Luke.
Oh, okay.
I was going to put The Sting on. The Sting is officially out.
It's officially out.
Yep.
I think Cool Hand Luke is on one of our Western lists, actually.
I don't know if it is.
No?
I don't want to. I would not categorize that as a Western.
Oh, okay.
So that's definitely not a list I sent to you.
Okay.
And then I just watched The Hustler.
Billiards movie.
Yes, because I was thinking about watching that and then A Color of Money.
Yeah.
which is also Paul Newman, Tom Cruise billiards movie.
Yes, it's kind of like a spiritual successor of sorts.
Right.
Like he's supposed to kind of play the same character or something like that.
Yeah. And then I think that's all the Paul Newman so
But those
far.
are dropped.
Those are dropped.
Wow, so not good. What's
No. Good, but not birthday.
Oh, okay.
Not
Wow.
and I don't want to just do a Paul Newman study on birthday podcast. That feels like a waste.
You need to be more esoteric.
Well, I had there was a film study that was going to be it for about 3 or 4 months. I had birthday movie done, and I figured I can't do this. It would be reprehensible. It was gonna be a Bart the Bear film study.
What, Bart the Bear?
One of the most famous animal actors of all time, Bart the
wow.
Bear, and he was in like 23 pictures.
Oh, okay.
But just so many of them,
Just not good.
I mean, arguably Bart the Bear the second, Bart the Bear 2, who just passed away recently, was in.
That's a bear. That's the name of the bear.
Bart.
The second.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Same trainer and stuff. Arguably, he had even a bigger career. But the original Bart the Bear was huge. He was at the Oscars.
I think you're our animal actors subject matter expert.
Thank you.
I mean, really, this is new territory for me.
They wanted to give him an Oscar.
No
and
way.
And the Academy was like, we can't give him out to animals. We can't. But he did present. He presented.
We make all the rules. We can't do it though.
Right. You can see him. I think it's on the 96 Academy Awards, something like that. He presented an envelope on stage to Mike Myers to read the winners.
Wow. Okay.
So, but we dropped Bart the Bear film studies is dropped.
Folks, write in if you're looking for some Bart the Bear action. I honestly couldn't name a single film.
And not only that, we couldn't have our something 50s in there, you know. Because I'm going
which is a requirement of the birthday episode.
It's either that or a Vaughn or Vince Vaughn. I feel like
maybe both. It's a Bond, a Vaughn, and a 50s, and then Bart.
Anyway, so yeah, been doing trying to get my sea legs a little bit. Watch some of the older stuff also, just to like familiarize myself. If I'm going to be sitting here on mic,
maybe let me know what you're thinking. I mean, I can help you and point you in a direction.
Okay, all right. So this week we went teen comedy heavy. I love it. And any more opening notes, or should we just get into it right away?
No, not really. I mean, like I said,
were you depressed after this week? Or did you come away? You did make one. You told me earlier. You were like, these are like an hour and a half. And
yes,
that was great.
That's true. Yeah, the praise I have for this week is that these were light and breezy 90-minute films, to the point that a normal 2-hour film with Mean Girls felt too long.
Yeah, it was an hour and 52 only. By
right,
the way. And it felt too long.
Even 2 hours. But honestly, I just loved being able to not put a ring on these movies and just watch a nice breezy 90 minutes. It was great.
That's good. That's good. Okay, all right, so let's just jump into it right away. We're jumping way back to 1999 with a very young Heath Ledger, and we're going to do 10 Things I Hate About You. Also starring with him is Julia Stiles, both very young. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, very young.
Yep.
And let's get into it. This is one I have not seen, I think, before, but relatively famous in like that teen comedy realm.
Oh, absolutely.
People like know the name of this film.
Yeah, I feel like all five of maybe not all five, but
I would say
the old movies this week, the older throwback movies are all new age teen classics in a lot of ways. And I feel like that almost starts in 99 with 10 Things I Hate About You.
Okay, sure, yeah.
As far as teen movies go.
Easy A is probably the least known.
Sure.
Least watched,
but definitely in the newer generation of like Booksmart and Edge of 17, and there's like there's a second wave of these new classics. So
okay, so 10 Things I Hate About You. Young Heath Ledger. R.I.P. How did we like this film?
I got to say, I really enjoyed this one.
Wow, okay.
It was a shock that I enjoyed this. This comes from TV sitcom directing veteran Jill Younger. And let me tell you, folks, this movie is 1999 distilled into a black tar heroin. I mean, this is the late 90s so much it really hurts in a lot of ways. Folks, just know that I have plenty of issues with the near constant soundtrack blaring over almost every one of these movies. It is a near constant soundtrack in this movie, no doubt to fuel its CD tie-in sales coming in the late 90s. But I end up loving this movie quite a bit for a lot of other great aspects. So I can't get caught up on what you all know I have a problem with, and it's no surprise I have a problem with soundtrack-wise. And in fact, nearly all of these movies, again, have some degree of obnoxious soundtracks.
I feel like it's almost a prerequisite for a teen movie like this.
Exactly. There's really no design into it other than keep it snappy, move the scene along, and again fuel some sort of sales to its CD demographics. So, prior to watching this, I heard it was a high school spin on the Shakespeare story called Taming the Shrew. Oh, I'm sorry, The Taming of the Shrew. And believe it or not, was on my list for that reason. As I struggled to make a Shakespeare compilation for the site, we now have 3 under the belt because I can confidently say this takes its literary inspirations on the nose. 10 Things I Hate About You. Julia Stiles plays a high school girl with a impossibly bad attitude. She is late 90s angst in that schoolgirl can think she is badass just because she drives a beater car and goes to grunge shows. That's kind of all you need to get your... she doesn't have to do anything else. That's basically about it. This chronically bad attitude harms some of her sister's dating prospects, as she is not allowed to date until they both have boyfriends. This gives everyone some skin in the game, as they hire a local bad boy to date her for cash. I can't say I know much about Heath Ledger beyond a few things, but this is his first early standout role for him, which I was really above everything most curious to see if he lived up to the hype kind of thing. In short, both our leads are all right. I really wasn't crazy about the romance here. My real praise goes to the super fun supporting cast with this one. Okay. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, coming off of his own TV stardom, I think is great. David Krumholtz, who was huge in the Disney and Christmas movie space at the time. Also recently in Oppenheimer. So who knows, maybe we'll see a resurrection of Krumholtz. Gabriella Union, looking stunning in this. A year before the iconic movie Bring It On, itself being a strong competitor for this week as far as teen rom-coms, and a handful of other adult characters that just kill it comedically. The movie doesn't drag at any point, despite the script being kind of Shakespearean in parts, despite it being 1999. All of this is because I feel like the supporting cast, everyone just worked despite this kind of potentially clumsy script. And I feel like it's in these resting moments that we get just really dynamite supporting cast.
Wow, they brought it up a notch.
Yeah, those were all my laughs of the film are on supporting cast. And again, if anything, there was a degree of disappointment in that Stiles and Ledger, I don't know if it really works. I could see maybe back in the day that's kind of like a right. He's dreamy. I don't know. Again, she's just got a bad attitude. That's the character.
I wonder if it was probably done similar to that. I felt like some of the biggest laughs going back to when we watched 40-Year-Old Version was purposely put on some of the supporting cast.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And maybe that's just a style or a trend or maybe an easy way out.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like you said, it could just honestly just be super clumsy, this film, if you're bringing in like that classical kind of Shakespearean language.
Exactly.
Or just the cadence and just the way that language kind of flows and moves.
Absolutely. It's intentionally out of place here.
Yeah.
And in that script, this lands somewhere in between a real Shakespeare story and something like it's something that I've referred to actually a few times now on the podcast, Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet spin. I really am not looking forward to the day that we touch on that movie because I really don't like that movie, and I kind of don't like Baz Luhrmann either. So
No, we're not Baz Luhrmann fans on the podcast.
So I need to stop mentioning it. But it's in a fully modern high school setting that occasionally this old-timey dialogue is peppered in. And what I feared most was actual lines ripped out of the play. We do get that here. I'm surprised to say it actually works. Mainly, I think, for the fact that the nerdy or loser characters are the ones to deliver those stilted phrases, and when they are, it's usually a punchline in itself, kind of making fun of itself. That's where, as well, it's a double-edged sword, because I feel like that adding in these stilted lines were fun punchlines and got real laughs out of me. It's the same Achilles heel for why some of this romance between Ledger and Styles just wasn't great. It wasn't amazing. Okay. And you might think that's the most important part. I'm walking away with this film and saying, forget it. It's whatever. There's other things to really love about this film.
And probably the arc of those two characters are maybe a little bit... you can presume.
Yeah, they're set in stone because that's the primary movement of the play. I've never read that, but presumably that's where they have the kind of the role to fill rather than just kind of going in their own direction.
I'm glad that the play stuff was kind of folded into comedy rather than trying to just like make it work and not be this hoity-toity confusion type thing,
or even just knows in its air, thinks it's too good.
Yeah.
And that's what I was really scared of. But I mean, a great example is that someone will say that. And the running joke is, quiet, shut up. Girls are going to hear you. So it's poked fun at in a good way, and I think surprisingly, if anything, against all odds, my favorite phrase, not something that made my skin crawl. So, like I said, though, there are things to love about this film, and I am not kidding. There is some really good cinematography here. I am 45 minutes into this fucking movie, Tom, and I had paused this 3 times to write down notes for shots. This is a good-looking film. This has some filmmaking to it, and honestly, watching it really shot me in the foot for the rest of the week because I was waiting for exciting filmmaking in any of these other ones, and they just never thought to do so. It's not their priorities, so I don't want to hold it against them, but this was a exciting film because it really was something gorgeous to look at. 2 great examples.
I'm shocked by that. Okay, you don't expect this comment coming out of this film.
Right. 10 things I hate about you. No, it's. I'm telling you, it's worth paying attention. Again, 45 minutes in, I paused it 3 times.
Wow. Okay.
It was unreal. 2 great examples. We get a simple but effective stairwell shot, a shot at party flyers kind of falling down the school stairwell. And I like it just because it hangs a lot longer than you think, but it's really a nice shot. There's also several, and I kid you not, Tom, several oneers. There are one-shots, one-takes in this movie, in this teen rom-com. The Seattle club scene is great, and let me tell you, what was the third pause that I basically took all these notes for was a house party into Biggie's Hypnotize that are both excellent examples of dialogue being snappy, being fun, and the comedy thriving from all of that with these oneers.
These shots. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's unreal.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, because presumably you went through this guy's stuff.
Right. So Mark Irwin is on the lens here, folks, and his recent career, we'll call it safe. I'll be nice. He's safe, but from 94 to 03, he's got some gems. We see him working in kind of the revitalized horror space like New Nightmare and the original Scream, which is kind of exciting. But also comedic hits like Dumb and Dumber and very much a new cult classic, Old School. So
very much in this comedy lane.
Yeah.
He does his biggest films that has done are pretty much comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for then he'll do like Big Mama's House 2.
right.
He does Flight.
Was that the safe one?
No, he goes from Big Mama's House 2 to Flight 93.
Okay.
So he does mix around a bit, but now he's very much into, looks like more kid stuff,
it's
animation stuff, and
he's a working guy now.
Yeah. That's a kind way to put
Nice way to say it. I'm telling you though,
Okay.
the cinematography here, the filmmaking, I was really impressed with. I really, it took what was it took what I thought was going to be a painful movie from the script, a movie I was curious about for Heath Ledger, but not liking their chemistry almost immediately on screen.
Right.
And I was just able to appreciate so much about it because I was like, damn, this is like a well-shot movie. It's really surprising and pleasantly so. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's filmmaking, of all things, that propelled this further for me. Specifically, it propelled it out of the John Hughes high school party shell, which is a dark cloud that honestly hangs over all of these that we're covering this week. I think if the music wasn't so obnoxious and romance a bit less stilted, honestly, I think this might be even up there with what I would consider the greats like Scott Pilgrim and Ferris Bueller. But for now, we're going to go ahead and give 10 Things I Hate About You, 1999, a 73.
Okay. 73 is a very good score. If you're new to the podcast in 2024, if you're in the 70s, that is a good or very good movie.
Absolutely.
Starting off strong. 73% for 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah.
Was this the first one you watched of the week?
It was. And that's what I say. I kind of shot myself in the foot being so in tune with looking at like shots and editing and filmmaking.
Oh, I love it though. I mean,
that I don't know. I had to, when I went to my notes the second time to refine things, I really had to kind of maybe dial back some of my criticism because I was like tearing apart some films. It's not that bad.
And a shout out to Mark Irwin too. Probably one of the few.
Let's have him on the Bark podcast. Come on, Mark.
Okay, all right. So that's 73%, 10 Things I Hate About You. Let's jump to 2004. This is the classic. This is Mean Girls. And boy, let's just get into it. I don't know how much you're going to be referencing the 24 one. But Lindsay Lohan and Mean Girls, what did you think?
Let me tell you, I got some thoughts on Lindsay Lohan. We'll get to that in a second. But Mean Girls, that was actually going to be my question I wanted to throw to you right away. Is this too young to be considered a classic, or do we call it a new classic? Splitting hairs, but you think it's a just straight up classic?
Yeah.
Okay.
2000. I mean, we're 20 years out of it.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I think maybe that's a good question, actually. How long does a movie have to be out for until you're able to call it a classic?
Yeah. It's just a thought process that I was having this week. Yeah.
When could you officially say that The Dark Knight was a classic?
Ooh. Tough. I love that Dark Knight is what you go to with this. We gotta man up this.
But you know what I mean? I mean, that one, just because it's so one of the best ones of the century so far.
Yeah, true.
But in 2018, could you say, "Oh, that's a classic"?
I think the 10-year rule. I mean, splitting hairs, but just kind of a thought.
I think this is just because. I mean, this was a hit when it came out, but I just felt like this had lasting power. Like people love this movie.
Absolutely,
people love it.
Absolutely, yeah. Directed by Mark Waters here, who is. I won't hold any punches. Mostly a terrible director. But this is really about Tina Fey's writing career, as this was her first project out of SNL. And she has been attached ever since, including the new movie this week, the Broadway show. And, I mean, Mean Girls is really her baby and a little bit of a cash cow, I'd imagine. Most of all, a legacy spawned from this movie, making it a new classic that fused itself into that successful Broadway show. And I will say, as a lot of people's favorite teen comedy for how fetch it is.
Yeah, good one.
Right, yeah. Oh, you get that because you watched the new one, right? Mean Girls is a conniving, gossipy story of manipulation at the hands of the hottest girls in schools, the Plastics. Lindsay Lohan plays a homeschool transfer student from Africa, introduced to a new type of jungle filled with predators she must navigate as she learns the new rules of the wild. She finds an equal place among nerds and misfits, but also the coveted spot at the Plastics table, which spawns a plan to take down the queen of them all, Regina George, played wonderfully by Rachel McAdams in a very early role for Rachel McAdams as well.
It's crazy
early
that
for everyone.
she does this film in 04, and already she plays like a more of an adult kind of young female in Wedding Crashers.
Yeah,
It's
right.
1 year.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way they kind of like age her, de-age her a little bit in
You're
these
right.
films is kind of
Right.
funny.
And also, how far is this from like The Notebook? Was that 2006, 2008?
Oh, it might just be a year later.
Yeah.
It might be 06, yeah.
Which is, I mean, yeah.
I think she was 24 when they shot. Or something, or maybe Lindsay Lohan was 24. I can't remember, but I think everyone was in their young 20s filming it.
Yeah.
Which it comes across as high school age.
Absolutely. I think they do a great job with that. It might be the biggest stretch I make all episode, but especially with how the second act is structured in this original Mean Girls, I think it really does work like heist film works. We learn the ins and outs of the school setting, not just because it's a fun teen comedy. Each piece of gossip or each gossip around a character plays a part in a ramping story of taking Regina down. No less, it's a fresh take on the story structure because the prize jewel of the burn book is used to flip the story on its head and gives Faye, as the writer here, the breathing room to ease into the message of the film without it being too campy or schmaltzy and actually hit as real as we see the collapse of the school. I would say that while there's a lot to love in concept and in script, acting is where we see a stumble. And folks, I am sorry, but is Lindsay Lohan high in this entire movie? I mean, this girl has got straight up red eyes in every other scene.
I had no idea.
It is unreal. This movie had me playing with the color settings on my TV. I said, no way.
I have never heard this critique ever until you ever people talk about Mean Girls.
Right.
Oh, people talk about
Lohan. I mean,
that's just the first time I heard this critique.
I'm going to show Tom a picture right now, and you tell me, is this woman stoned or not?
She is gone.
She's gone. And I'm telling you, watch this movie. There are scenes where she looks normal. Lohan is gorgeous during this time, and I gotta say, a lot of love towards her too. She was a serious crush for me growing up, but stoned or not, she is just not a great actress. and I think on top of that is that you really do get a fluctuating, varying quality to her acting performance in this one. And, again.
Is she better stoned or better sober?
I think maybe better stoned.
Okay. Maybe she's looser.
She's loosened up. I gotta say, I mean, it really is unreal, folks. Watch this movie just to tally, just to count. Make a drinking game out of it every time you see her. And circling back to what I was saying, though, she has scenes where her eyes, gorgeous, white, pearly. You know what I mean? She's great. And then there's definitely other scenes where she's
a bloodshot.
It's bloodshot. Oh. It's unreal. After watching the new one, I will give credit to Lohan's performance nailing the plastic side of the performance. Where the new casting I didn't feel worked at all. It's not great acting across the board, and I feel like it really limits what is otherwise a great movie. I also find it funny that Lohan kind of makes a career out of these mischievous roles. The Parent Trap really just must be her finest work.
And I've got The Parent Trap, this Freaky Friday.
Sure, mischievous,
right?
Herbie.
Is Herbie the one with the car?
Yeah.
She doesn't turn into a car though, right? Does the car?
Early Transformers. Okay. Michael Bay saw Herbie. He was like, all right. We gotta get it going.
Is it something with the car as a personality?
Yeah,
though, right?
I think it's like a Knight Rider. Like the car has a mind or something.
Okay.
Or isn't Herbie like a 70s thing? I don't know. Believe it or not, one of my concerns with the new film was that they were never going to outdo Regina George. And again, I feel like it's just perfectly played by Rachel McAdams in this. But I can 100% say you will never outdo her mom, played by Amy Poehler, in this. She had me dying laughing in some parts. The cool mom bit just felt so wonderfully 2000s, and
she crushed it.
Oh yeah, you could just tell as well that Poehler was tuned in a way that I don't know who plays the mom in the new one, but Poehler is she's worked with Faye. You know what I mean? She knows where to drive it home. They probably were brainstorming together in SNL on this. So, and Amy Poehler, I mean, This week is a week of amazing, funny, fun supporting actors and actresses. Amy Poehler, I mean, absolutely kills it.
Okay, I'm gonna go back and watch your scenes.
Yeah, it's just the 2000s fun mom, quote unquote. It's just fantastic. What kind of shot this in the foot a little bit was I was expecting more on a rewatch. I felt like many scenes will have a great comedic rhythm, but are cut short in the edit. A really good example of this is the cafeteria introduction scene, which will be built upon in Easy A, and you'll see it's just kind of lets it run a little bit longer, and I feel works better comedically. This is really across the board with this first Mean Girls. I feel like editing was a little bit of a rough spot because the comedy is there. Just let it run a tiny bit more. If anything, I was kind of craving the languishing scenes of the Apatow study.
Interesting. Yeah.
Or maybe my taste is soiled by Apatow. I don't know.
Interesting critique, though, that you're picking up on that.
Yeah.
That the scenes were cut too quick.
Yeah. Especially with how good some of these supporting comedic performances are. I wanted the editing to give breathing room to it. Not for improv or something sloppy, but just to the great script that's there.
Right.
Amanda Seyfried is a great example of funnier scenes when things are left alone. I feel like she's able to be left alone a lot. I would say in the unavoidable comparison game this week, I think this is worth a watch because of its novelty and because of its message. Tina Fey really was able to break away from your typical teen flick with this, even beyond my repeat nods to John Hughes. And it's able to do so because it revels in its catty fun, while also having something meaningful to say about its viewers, about avoiding girl-on-girl crime. And that's where I think this timeless aspect comes into play when people call it a new classic. We're going to go ahead and give Mean Girls 2004 a 67.
Okay, all right, it's 67.
Yeah.
That's a very respectable score. Especially considering we're talking about teen comedies here.
Right.
These are pretty good.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. These are punching above what I would normally.
Yeah, you were sitting there exhausted of just like how bad they were.
Right.
I think that's very fair. 67% for Mean Girls,
Yeah.
and I love the comment. That's a good review. I like the commentary there.
You like how much of a problem I have with Stoned Lizzie.
That's just a plus. That's just a bonus. Let's keep it going along. We're 2 years later. This is 2006. And again, I would probably put this into another classic. This is The Devil Wears Prada, directed by David Frankel. And this isn't, I don't know, this isn't like high school teen comedy.
No.
This is just very beloved by girls of the time and continue.
Right. Believe me, I tried to avoid the landmine field of calling these movies chick flicks or something like that because I really don't agree that they are. If anything, a lot of these teen romances, they're meant for the whole family in a lot of ways. That's where I feel like we get a lot of love to supporting characters. But this one is definitely the odd movie out this week, departing from that usual high school setting and fitting equally into the played out 2000s rom-com as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Would you agree also, would you put this in the classic kind of?
Yes.
I think it's so well known.
Yeah, if only for Meryl Streep, but also because it is so beloved. Ties into the book then, and yeah. So, but like our last film, many will call this a classic, whether it's my judgment or not, whether it's our judgment or not, and I think this fits well into the week on what Tina Fey once again calls girl-on-girl crime, because this is definitely about some girl-on-girl crime. This is directed by HBO veteran David Frankel. However, all eyes are on Lauren Weisberger, writer of the hit novel. This was originally based on the equally posh and toxic management behind Vogue magazine, specifically the editor-in-chief Anna Wintour. The aspects of the story pulled from Lauren's own experience as an assistant.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think it feels wonderfully authentic as a dive into that fashion world for that reason. Originally, I had to note that I kind of kind of didn't like that they didn't have actual brand names. They have a lot of approximate names of like magazines and whatnot. But after doing the deep dive of research into how true this was, it's really just to protect probably Lauren.
Definitely. You could get lawsuits left and right.
Exactly.
It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, and if there's any hype to the devil of Anna Wintour, then I would have no doubt she would go after her in some way, maybe even tried.
It almost surprises me to hear that everything's so covered up or relabeled when Prada is in the title.
It's not everything. Big brands are there. I
Okay.
just feel like it exists in the fashion magazine world, and I'm gonna be, I'm definitely gonna be on the island by myself in this type of critique. But I kind of wanted more the corporate aspect.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Where's the real Vincent Daly? Where is he? This is new stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you wanted more of an Adam Sandler
No.
product placement. I mean, the man who hates product placement.
Okay, back away from it.
Interesting critique.
No, it's half.
Boy, if it was a snake, it would have bit me.
It was snake. Yeah. The Devil Wears Prada, though, follows Andy Sachs, played by Anne Hathaway, in an equally iconic role as Meryl Streep, a smart and clueless graduate looking to crack into the world of magazine journalism. Little does she know, cracking into the world of fashion may take more than she was ever ready for, as being the assistant to Miranda Priestley takes over your whole life. Shockingly, Andy ends up being pretty damn good at her job, but the drama balances on trying not to lose herself to this new, exciting phase of her life. Of course, I am very late to the party on this one, folks, but Meryl Streep is great here, without a doubt. I think before this rewatch, I just kind of lumped this performance of Meryl's into her usual kind of high-quality acting. This time, however, I was able to really appreciate how the role she serves specifically as a mirror for Anne Hathaway in this story. I really did love that this performance is kind of an iconic figure the moment she steps on screen, both within the movie and for us watching. She's iconic within the world of the movie, and nearly every scene serves to be that mirror of what Andy is trying to avoid becoming. And I feel like I had a lot more appreciation for her utility in the story on top of this great performance. A little hammy performance, but deliciously hammy.
And kind of selling it, too. I feel like with Meryl Streep sometimes it's on autopilot. You know, I don't want to say phoning it in, but an autopilot where, you're getting a good performance. Here's another Oscar nom. And
right.
Things can kind of seem flat or you can't connect with. You
Sure.
can't get there completely. That's good to hear that she's, it's not just Meryl Streep in a role.
Exactly.
She's owning it.
That's
she's
exactly
making
what I
it
mean
hers.
as well by, I just kind of lumped it in. I just said, oh, okay. It's
Right. You would put this more into like her role in adaptation.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure,
Where she really grabs that.
Absolutely.
And she kind of just acts,
Yeah,
just acting her. It's going
absolutely.
crazy.
I would say the upside to Meryl being able to excel in the devil side of her persona makes the slippery slope of the career moves in this movie unexpected, and not that this performance pulls the wool over your eyes, but you're just so infatuated and wanting Meryl to be on screen again that you kind of don't expect a lot of the areas that the movie goes, even with it being fairly generic,
Yeah.
I would say big love to my boy Stanley Tucci in this. A really standout supporting role for him. I personally think we see him be funnier in the up-and-coming Easy A, but his character Nigel has a wonderful little arc in the third act, and that's where I kind of wish the story stayed there as well, within the manipulative corporate drama, with the stakes being driven by these fashion plot events. I think where this film lost my attention, if it was anywhere, it was in the romantic stakes thrown in.
Yeah.
It's where I felt the relationships inside the magazine company were much more compelling, and that's where I'm coming from as far as the more corporate side.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm gonna walk it back.
As far as the love story stuff, it's almost too plug and play in a film like this. Like
exactly.
It actually bites more in other areas of the film.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. I think where this genericness comes up, it's in its 2000s New York rom-com shell, already done to death at the time. I wouldn't mind doing a study on the origins of this, a la John Hughes. There's the third one, folks. But now let's call this, I don't know, In the Shadow of When Harry Met Sally, or even worse, Living in the Shadow of Hitch.
I was going to say Hitch. Okay, good, you brought it up. Hitch was 05. It wins.
Yeah. It wins.
We got to watch that. That's a great movie. We really do.
Keep my wife's name out of your Prada bag. But, I'm not talking about the fashion world itself. None of that is generic, if anything. That's the deep dive. And I haven't read the book.
That's what's separating itself from a generic film.
Exactly. But everything else, it's her best friend group with the token gay character. It's the predictable swings of the romance arriving pre-scheduled at the end of Act 2. The skeleton is what was lacking for me here, but there was still so much to love in the meat of what the story was about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and a little Tucci doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. And he's really great. He's like,
he really is great.
He is.
I mean, I've come... Not that I ever disliked him,
right?
But he was just like an actor.
He's a working actor, yeah.
And then, but I see him more and more, and it's like this dude kicks ass,
yeah.
on all of the films he's in.
Absolutely,
Love
absolutely. It. He's also kind of inherited Anthony Bourdain's role as kind of cook with a personality a little bit.
Top 3. It's my top 3 traveling food show. Have you
yeah.
given a lot of love to his CNN show?
No. I haven't seen too much, but isn't it all like Italy themed?
It's Italy based.
Oh, that's great.
Tucci going around Italy and food. It's a wonderful show.
That's great.
Bourdain, Tucci, and I will die and hold the flag for one of the best traveling cook shows.
Okay.
Even with all the internet stuff now, whatever. Emeril Lagasse's one and only season he did when Amazon just started doing originals.
Really? Okay.
He won an Emmy for it.
Wow.
The show won an Emmy.
It was just one season?
It was just one season. And then I turn it on, turn it on the TV, and he's selling stuff in those terrible infomercials.
Oh, well, we fell for that. We're going to tell that story.
The crazy, he's still selling products, though.
He's a salesman.
That ice cream machine we bought was horrible. Horrible.
I don't even think we were under any influences, but folks, Tom and I at one point bought Emeril Lagasse's ice cream maker.
I don't QVC.
It was
the only thing I ever bought
over
QVC.
I could probably say that. Yeah. Oh my god.
But anyway, don't sleep on that Emeril Lagasse. I mean, it's an Amazon property, so it's on there.
Sure,
Won an Emmy, and I'm telling you, it's like was he always a TV chef? Was he always a joke? And then he watched this. He's like, no, the guy knows what's going on.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. That was a beautiful tangent.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love that as well, that we were able to say that we fell for a QVC scam.
You remember the mint chocolate chip we tried to make?
It was disgusting.
We swear. I mean, I said something. I was like, there's no way this is good. There's no, and then you kept on going. Who knows? Maybe something will happen.
In the churning process.
It was just like a pound of dried mint into normal ice cream.
It didn't even taste that minty. It was like dried leaves.
You're like, there's no way this terrible. I don't know.
And then what was the recipe? The real mint chip?
Yeah.
So
we used the actual recipe from him.
Right. It came with the churner. Oh, man. That's a huge tangent. All right. Hopefully that makes it in, folks. I will say some of my wrapping up thoughts on Devil Wears Prada is that it's funny that one of my first few reviews for the podcast was for Cruella.
Yes.
And I compared the concepts to this movie. Little did I know, Aileen Brosh McKenna helps write both of them. And now we have really come full circle with this. I would say I cannot help but feel this movie, Devil Wears Prada, is the movie that should be getting remade 20 years later. Who knows, maybe we'll stay tuned for 2026. I would say dust off some of those 2000s cobwebs, maybe get a new killer performance for Miranda, and hell, maybe, lean into, I don't know, like an A24 corporate thriller spin. I'm just spitballing here, but for what we have, I think it's still well worth your time, and if only for Meryl Streep's iconic performance. We're going to go ahead and give The Devil Wears Prada, 2006, a 65.
Okay, 65.
Yeah.
65 to me. We don't have many 65s for
true.
some reason.
Yeah.
That really sticks out to me. But 65, that is a standard good movie.
Yes. If anything, leaning
Is that fair
towards
to say?
great. Absolutely.
And I know those words can be so, good is such a shit-on word.
Right.
But if you just went, that's a good movie, for the daily ratings, that is 65%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, okay. Respect all these films.
Yeah.
It would be fun to go through all of these films and say which one's the double header. What goes well with what.
Absolutely.
But
which, if there is a doubleheader, it's for sure Devil's Wear Prada's into Cruella.
A reboot, yeah. And a reboot would be so interesting.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised they wouldn't, because not knocking the author, but she hasn't really had anything this big of a hit. So I'm cynical. I think money talks. I would expect they would want to, resurrect this in some sort of way.
Let's be fair. Maybe in 2026, after 20 years,
right?
Maybe listen, they're grabbing IP wherever they can.
Exactly.
I'm sure it's going to be, just in this never-ending circle, never-ending circle of.
Yeah,
it'd be fun to cast, and we can get some ideas from the folks at home.
Yeah.
Okay, Vin, all right. We're 4 years past The Devil Wears Prada. We're in 2010, and this is with your girl, Emma Stone, Easy A.
Yeah,
and I'm least familiar with Easy A out of all this.
Oh, really?
And I would say, I would assume that would go broadly for everybody.
Sure. I think Easy A, in that thought process of classic versus new classic versus classic at all.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a new classic for just beyond our generation, because you and we would grow up with Mean Girls, not that it's
right. So the younger generation,
yes,
the ones
exactly.
that step below,
and that's where I feel like some others are stepping in there as well. Would be considered new classics,
right?
So,
okay, Easy A. How did we like it? Quick hour and 32, which is great.
And also notice on the time, folks. I mean, what with the mega episode, I was done talking about Rebel Moon by this point in time. Yeah. At this point in the episode run time. Episode. Yeah. So these are nice, easy films.
This is
fun.
Didn't
have to think too hard.
We're having a good time. Well, not only that, we had a 3-hour episode last week as well.
Yeah, exactly. We got to ease it up.
All right, Easy A. How easy was it?
Well, it's from director Will Gluck, who probably has the worst name ever, and sadly doesn't do anything great after this. This includes Friends with Benefits, a movie we cite often in the twin concept phenomena. I forget if we gave that a syndrome name.
I don't think so.
Of when the same concept is happening at the same, in two different movies coming out at the same time. I forget. We really talked about it in an episode.
We talked about actual of the same movies coming out. I think, right?
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Exactly.
2 Jungle Books come out, 2 Pinocchios come
true,
out.
Very true.
I don't know what you call that. You can call that idiotic, maybe. Could be the word we could use for it.
Bad business. I gotta say, this movie was really just the perfect culmination of the movies this week. Swap out Shakespeare for The Scarlet Letter as your literary fuel for the rom-com. Emma Stone is our red-headed narrator, and if anything, we get Regina George with a Christian spin in Amanda Bynes' character. So if you want to scare, look up Amanda Bynes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's mean.
I mean, we love her. We grew up with Amanda Bynes.
Right, love Amanda's show.
Tragic.
And hell, even Stanley Tucci plays the father in this. This was the nexus. This was the culmination of all the movies this week. In Easy A, we see Bella Baxter brought back to life by the hands of Frankenstein-like doctor to explore her sexuality in the wider world. Wait a second. Wait, someone doesn't seem right here. That's a different. Yes. In Easy A, Emma Stone plays a sharp-witted high school loner Olive.
I love when you go off and do bits on your own.
Right. I don't clear the bits with you. If anything, the bits are for me. They're jokes I'm telling
are solely for yourself. I mean, I enjoyed it, but
just for me, watching all these goddamn movies. Emma Stone plays the sharp-witted. Emma Stone plays the sharp-witted high school loner Olive, just another face in the crowd until a certain rumor gets started about her hooking up with a guy looking to shed his own reputation. Olive doesn't mind, though. In fact, she might even like some of the attention. Gossip is for hire, and quickly she embraces her new role as the fake harlot of the school. I would say standouts for Easy A, and even in the comparison game, again, I really try not to compare these films one-to-one, to each other.
Right.
I think it's a really solid script here. It got a lot of genuine laughs out of me. Writing-wise, we are with Burt Royal, and hasn't done too much, but I would happily cover some more scripts from him if he worked on something new.
It was witty. It was snappy.
Yeah. I guess he had some play into Big Hero 6. Not saying that's a comedic brilliance on the Disney side, but I think my point here is I would like to see more from Burt. I'm not sure what happened to him is career-wise. Emma Stone is, of course, a huge spotlight here, doing her Mean Girls style narration, and I love her to death. I'll maybe balance some of my praise, though, and I could see this performance maybe being slightly annoying for some viewers if you're not into Emma Stone's shtick or her big personality that comes through in her acting.
Right.
Dialogue with everyone is so snarky and so sharp that I think Emma being the core of it might feel like overkill at times. Like even the loser nerd characters are super charming, and she is then just magnified tenfold because of that. But believe it or not, I think it all works out because the tone of the film is deceivingly sweet. I feel for all the snark, all the sharp wittiness to Emma Stone's character, it's, once again, like Mean Girls, looks to be kind of like a raunchy movie, a teen movie.
Yeah.
Actually kind of has a heart of gold and a message to tell. And I feel Easy A falls exactly into that. On that note, though this seems like it is going to be the most raunchy out of all of our selections this week, it really isn't. Despite the wonderful call out to John Hughes in this from Emma Stone herself.
So that's cool.
She did it for me. It really does escape a generic structure it appears to have. To me, this reminds me of something more like 2007's Charlie Bartlett, kind of a weird callback, but serving as a kind of uplifting teen movie with edge. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but I think tone-wise, these two are close, maybe even a doubleheader.
Okay. That movie eludes me, actually.
It had Robert Downey Jr. in it, and unfortunately Chekhov, the one that died, to the car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an early role for him, but had this edgy teen appeal. But when you watch the film, the message is more lovey-dovey, heart of gold than any movie. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Even one not trying to go for it. So it's kind of trying to do a some sort of switcheroo on you. You go in kind of looking at this kind of raunchy comedy, and it's
it slaps you across the face with a little sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
A little sugar. Okay.
Right, with a message. I would say the key element here is making the teen audience feel like they're watching something naughty, and still having the message to deliver. I would say plenty of films ride the wave in the coming years of this, such as, like I said, Edge of 17 or Booksmart, or we didn't cover it from last year, but I think it was just called Bottoms, that it was still trying to be super raunchy, but then, pull the wool over your eyes and it's actually something sweet.
Right, yeah.
I would say that's where this film earns a slot and worth your attention if you're in the mood for these teen romances, if you're in the mood for maybe a palate cleanser from Emma Stone and Poor Things. I would say until I cover some of those more recent teen rom-coms, I feel like this does get to be called a new classic alongside the other picks this week. If anything, this is the first pick of that next generation in the 2010s.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really have too much more to say. Not saying that the film wasn't as good as the others, but this one, I didn't have much more to critique than I liked it. And I don't feel like there was...
Maybe that's just where it lies.
Exactly. It was inoffensive.
Yeah.
It was sweet. and it still had the fun.
It had enough, right? It had enough edge in there where it wasn't a sappy or a
Disney Channel movie.
Exactly.
That.
It had enough there to it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It sounds like performing. Maybe you got your least amount of comedy in this one. Is that fair to say? Or
no, because it feels like everyone's really trying to be, sharp and witty.
Okay, all right. The script's that good.
Yes, yes. But if anything, that is kind of could be a factor that turns people away from this. And that's where I want to kind of recognize it, even with specifically Emma Stone, that I feel like everyone is kind of a witty genius, even the lowest of the losers in the high school, that maybe there's an unnaturalism. Maybe it feels unrealistic, depending if you're watching it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you can give it some slack.
Yeah, exactly. See, this is where I was saying earlier. Like,
yeah.
I feel like 10 Things I Hate About You set the bar high. I was gunning for all these movies, looking for gold, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's just a movie, So, toning it back aside, I think this is a solid movie and definitely worth your time. We're gonna go ahead and give Easy A 2010 a 68.
All right, 68. I'm loving these scores.
Yeah,
I think they're really fair. I like them, and
I think they're fair too.
Yeah, and they don't deserve to be crucified or to take your knives out completely, and that's what these are good. I like these scores; they're good scores.
Yeah,
and I also think it's a very good balance of you're not a teen girl, so these are not in the 90s for you. Right. But you're not someone who's just going to go and hate to hate.
Sure.
Like a Mean Girls or something like that.
That's
you know
exactly
what I mean?
why I put aside all my what could be copious critiques about the music. I was just like, they all have problems with music, so I'm not going to bother with this.
Yeah, it's almost something you need if you want to make it into the genre.
Exactly. So
excellent, Vin. I love it. Well, folks, all right, we're going to go into our producer segment, Vin. Welcome to 2024. We do have a producer.
Excellent.
And really an old friend of the show. We have Matt D. Writing in for 2024. He donated a movie ticket. It was $12.60, which it's still, I have to find out what the average movie ticket was for 2023 and adjust it.
It's going to fluctuate.
Inflation,
the market.
Matt gave $12.60, and I think it's because if you go through PayPal, you can pay for whatever the transfer fee is going to be.
Okay.
But that sounds a little high. I have no idea. But $12.60 came from
Matt
Matt
D.
We'll
take it.
Yeah, we absolutely will. Thank you, Matt. And he wrote in a nice note for us as well, Vin. So Matt D writes, a great job on the second inaugural Tom Daly Awards. A lot of fun. As with last year, the custom awards were the best part.
Oh,
hey!
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Being nice. He goes, I'm happy to hear you're rolling with the tags I have requested before. Or I have one. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm happy to hear you're rolling with the tags. And I have one request, of course. As producer, that the original Dungeons & Dragons movie has to be a So Bad It's Good. Get a Spig tag.
You got it.
And I think straight because Jeremy Irons' performance.
Oh, yeah. It's so hammy.
Was so good.
So delicious garbage. Like, oh, yeah.
I was just putting on House of Gucci. Just yesterday, I was putting on House of Gucci on the site. And it made me recall back how disappointed we were at his... He was in that... Like, we were not about his role in that.
Yeah, no.
His accent, I think, was everywhere.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, Jeremy Irons is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt also writes, I have a few movies to highlight myself, if that's okay. A few movies from 2023 that you didn't cover, and some from 2024 that I'm excited and weren't mentioned.
Sure.
So for 2023 films that Matt's interested in seeing is Unicorn Wars, which I have not heard about this. He says a Spanish animated film about a holy war between teddy bears and unicorns. He goes, it's very funny and violent and intense. So Unicorn Wars. This one, Rustin, a biopic about Bayard Rustin, which we did say kind of fell through the cracks a little bit for us this year. Was on our radar a bit. But it's about the organizer of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. He was a huge part of the fight for civil rights, and almost no one knows who he is.
That's another one that falls to the victim of Netflix's marketing, because I feel like no one knew about the movie.
That was a Netflix release?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, he also says It Lives Inside is a film he's interested in, a horror film that belongs in the, quote, elevated horror category for its strong themes. A spirit haunts a community of Indian Americans, and they have to learn how to fight back. I think I might have saw this, like a trailer for this, and actually was somewhat interested.
It's
as
new.
far as the genre
It's
and
coming
everything. These are 2023.
Okay. Got it.
Still 2023. And then he says, honorable mention, The Wrath of Becky, a short and fun slasher flick that subverts the genre. So, okay. Films that I didn't know 3 of those, honestly.
I also love
just
the awareness of it, coverage on it.
Yeah.
So that's great.
All right, so there's 23. Maybe 2024, something, put them on a list. Then these are the 2024 films that we didn't mention last week.
Okay.
I think we hit about like 20, 24, 25 films last week we talked about. There were 2, and I knew it was going to happen. The episode ended. There were 2 I forgot about, and Matt picks up on one of them here. So the 2024 films, the films that Matt is excited for, we have Civil War, an Alex Garland-directed A24 film about a near future in which the U.S. Fractures into a civil war.
Yep.
Thoughts on that?
I like Alex Garland. Men was very... I mean, it's a doozy. It's a doozy of a film. I kind of, as a big Alex Garland fan, I feel like this concept is a little bit beneath his cerebral films.
Right.
It feels a little bit on the nose, but that's about it. I'll wait to watch
How
the
can
movie.
he elevate it? Because it has, Jesse Plemons is in it. Like, it's got big actors.
Which is a hated actor of Matt D, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Matt D has an axe to grind
really?
with Jesse Plemons.
Oh, I would like to get his name into that. Jesse Plemons, I didn't like it for years.
Sure.
I thought he was just kind of like a
nothing
bargain bin actor.
Yeah.
I've since really come around to him.
Really?
And
Okay.
have been enjoying him more and more. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to let it
Not on
speak,
my list.
Because I was, if anything, a little overhyped for Men, and I feel like that shot my enjoyment of that film in the foot.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to see what comes out of it, because I am a fan of Garland.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I won't go further. It's Civil War, okay. Next is Challengers, a new flick from Luca Guadagnino.
Guadagnino.
Starring Zendaya. So Challengers, I thought was supposed to be a 23 release.
Oh, really? Okay.
Pushed back because, and it's a tennis flick with Zendaya and somebody else. I can't remember.
Interesting.
I have recently been described or heard it be described as a sexy tennis movie.
That's interesting.
We'll see how good it is. I'm hearing good things that people are talking. Like, it's got some chatter challenge.
Am I remembering
challengers.
right that Guadagnino is Call Me By Your Name?
Correct.
And
Bones and All.
Bones and All.
Correct.
Oh, wow. I mean, well, maybe it's going to be a cannibalism tennis movie. That would be interesting.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how it is. I like tennis, and I like that films are being made, and yet they come around, and I'm not interested in them. You know, so like this... I know it's getting good reviews, or people are talking about it, and I don't know if I'm going to be all that prompted to go and see it.
Yeah.
You know, King Richard, it was a thing. Didn't see it, didn't care too much.
Yeah.
And then before that...
Talk about a forgotten
Well,
one.
yeah.
Oof.
And then I would say the Shia LaBeouf one,
This is Shia LaBeouf tennis film?
who's supposed to portray Johnny McEnroe, whatever, the famous tennis guy who always like pops off.
Oh, right.
Apparently really good, and it's like, oh, I'm glad that exists, but I don't know if I'm going to sit down and watch it
Sure.
when it comes to tennis films.
Yeah.
But anyway, being talked about.
Yeah. I would say my skin in the game for that one is just Luca's tone of his films. Because he's able to capture something, I don't say intimate in a sexual way. They are all sexual movies. But he's able to kind of create a little window into his characters. I know that may sound, reviewery to it, but he really is able to create an intimacy with characters and what we're watching on screen, which is great.
Okay. Challengers, I think that might be a spring release. So I'm sure it's going to be on our list. Another film he's excited for is Handling the Undead. This one I have not heard of.
No, yeah.
Or a Norwegian film about the unexplained reanimation of thousands of dead bodies in Oslo. It follows the implications of the event through the eyes of the people who live there and the families impacted by the event.
Interesting.
Okay.
Kind of like a Dead Don't Die type of thing.
I'm down for that. That's
yeah.
fine. And then the last, this is one of the ones where I'm like, I can't believe I forgot to bring that up.
Yeah,
but
okay.
Matt D's got it here. Megalopolis.
Oh,
which is the
yes.
Francis Ford Coppola directed
Yeah.
Ensemble sci-fi epic is
Yep.
how he puts it, and I would agree with that. I mean, Francis Ford Coppola, he's still around.
He's still around. He's still making wine.
I think he might have sold the winery.
Oh, really?
He might have sold it, cashed in on that.
Okay, interesting.
And he's made like 3 small independent films or something, and he's been working on this for years.
Really? Okay.
This Megalopolis, I don't know what to expect from it. It
Sure.
very well could be the best film of the year, like hands down. Maybe it's a Napoleon situation. Who knows?
Sure. I don't want to throw too much shade at Coppola, but his later career is kind of rough.
It's weird.
And
weird.
bloated projects aren't a good sign. You look at Dracula as a perfect example of that. That movie's just there's a lot of passion put into it, but it's such a mess in execution.
And I mean, as far as film IP goes, you can't go much. I mean, because this is a play off of Metropolis.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
1927.
So. We'll see. It's one of the things I'm most excited for, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely excited for that. I mean, I'm excited I have possibly 2 sci-fis to talk about in a year previously that I had none. So
the only other one on my list that I forgot to mention was Juror Number 2.
Okay.
The latest and probably last film from Clint Eastwood.
Oh.
It's got big actors. It's a courtroom drama, and I don't know. It's getting more respect compared to some of the other later works
from Eastwood.
by Clint.
Yeah.
Especially the ones he didn't direct, but even acted in.
True.
Things like Mule and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Cry Macho. These things that no one's really ever seen. But big cast. I heard, and I don't know if this is true. This was a joke. I did hear that principal photography was shot in 2 days.
Eastwood is infamous by doing one takes only. He's the inverse of like a Stanley Kubrick, where it's like 87 takes.
Which I would not like to work with maybe either, but I don't like the one take thing.
Yeah, I don't know which side of that. Because I feel even if it's not, the intention isn't laziness, it is a lazy action. You know what I mean? As far as the making of the film.
You could probably lose so much. Because Clint's thing is we can fix it in edit. We can fix it in post. We can fix it in post. If a line is not shot great or something even up with the camera. But the fact that it's a courtroom drama, I believe it could be shot in 2 days because you're in one room and you're just staging scene after scene after scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
But J.K. Simmons was just on board for that. He flew in and shot for it. It's starring Nicholas Hoult and some other big names as well. So
interesting.
Matt D still says, last thing, I'm glad we finally got to the bottom of Tom's love for the Irishman. Ray Romano. Which I like The Irishman a lot for a lot of reasons. Ray is just, he's one piece of the big puzzle.
I feel like you're digging your heels in deeper in this. I mean, like it went from like, I kind of enjoy The Irishman to like, I love Deborah.
Oh, great year and looking forward to the next. Thank you, Matt D, so much.
Hey, thanks.
That's a great 2023 list. I didn't know of Unicorn Wars, and potentially It Lives Inside might be a horror that I might even be into watching. Really? I have to say, yeah.
Wow.
If it's the same film I'm thinking about, then yeah.
Interesting.
And otherwise, those 2024 films, absolutely. Civil War, we'll see. But, okay. All right, Matt, thank you so much for being a producer here on episode 117. Folks, if you're wondering what the hell's going on and who's this note we're reading, basically this is the producer segment, and we are completely producer supported on the daily ratings. And we're not going to throw a bunch of ads in your face. We are not going to have paywalls on this site or a subscription service or anything like that. Really, the only way we're doing this is a value for value model. So if you're getting value from the daily ratings, from the website, from the podcast, are you enjoying it? Are you more into film? You're just having a good time hanging out with us every week. That's value in your pocket. We ask, can you give us value back in our pocket? So you go to thedailyratings.com, you head to the donations tab, and through your monetary support, you become a producer of the Daily Ratings. Just like in Hollywood, when you financially support a product, you are a producer of that thing. So Matt D continues to be a producer of the Daily Ratings.
A vested interest in us.
Yeah, love it. And also when you donate, you can write in a producer note, which is just what we read for Matt. So if you're going to take the time to go to the site and to send some money our way, we're going to take this time right here on the podcast and read a note, whether it be comments, critiques, questions, anything. If you're producing, we want to hear from you. It kind of opens up a dialogue back and forth. And like in real producer fashion, last year, Matt D had asked or suggested that we put a specific tag or an emblem when a movie is so bad, but it's good. You know, don't just skip past it when you see a bad score.
Yep.
We're going to throw something on there that's just like, oh, it's so bad, it's good. The Tommy Two Shoe rating. We're going to have some emblems on that. So people just, there's something on this site that actually says, oh, no, Tom gave this.
Tom actually cared.
Right. And then you can see it's a shoe with no lace. And it's like, what the hell does that mean?
And now I'm even more confused.
Yeah. The point is, being a producer, we take it very seriously. And we just appreciate it so much. It's going to be a great year, a great 2024. So we hope to see so many new producers just kind of join in the Daily Ratings family. Again, it's thedailyratings.com. Head to the donations tab, donate and become a producer today. Don't forget to send that donation note in. All right, Vin, let's go on to our last film. As we discussed, we both saw it. We were in the theater together. I found best part of the movie is when I found the secret hallway.
He found a secret hallway.
And I was very excited by it.
It was definitely a secret hallway, absolutely.
Still no bathroom in that hallway. That's what I was really looking for. Regardless, this is the newly released Mean Girls, directed by Samantha Jane and Arturo Perez Jr., and it is Mean Girls. So it's easy to kind of get confused when you're Googling the films and everything.
And then there's a Mean Girls 2
Yes,
that was
there
a
is.
TV movie.
Yep,
So
yep.
this can't be called Mean Girls 2. Yeah, so... Yeah.
So basically, it's a bit of a one-for-one remake, and it is a musical. And Vin had said that it was a musical to me, but I wasn't aware still going into it.
Folks, he leans over to me. I'm saying 5 songs in. He goes, Vin, is this a musical?
No. I didn't say it. I said I did. I had figured it out by song 2 that it was a musical.
Okay, fair. All right,
but I
fine.
waited to say, I looked at you and I said, did you know it was going to be a musical? And you look at me and you go, yeah, did I not tell you? And I was just like, oh,
Wouldn't have gone.
But yes, it is a musical. So it's a one-for-one remake, but it's also a musical. Let's get into it right away, Vin. Let's set it up. And how do we like it?
Part of why I have some beef with this film is that it is such a one-to-one remake, and it really depends on what you want to get out of it. So I want to kind of open up with that, because if you are looking for the greatest hits type of approach, that this is just Mean Girls again with songs, maybe that's even brought you to the Broadway show that this had, then you'll probably get what you signed up for. For me, I thought there was going to be a little more done beyond just casting decisions to update Mean Girls 20 years later,
right,
to infuse this musical spin to it, and really... None was there. That can be a positive or a negative, though, because I feel in a beat-for-beat remake, I think people just want the classics, maybe some updated casting.
I don't know what to think about it, and I don't know what to compare it to. I mean, you went to the bathroom and came back, and I felt like I had to fill you in, and I was like, hey, this happened. You went, oh, no, I know. You go, it's a beat-for-beat remake. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize how much it was.
To the point that's almost every line
right.
as well. Like, the script is beat-for-beat.
I don't know what to compare that to. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we don't really do, like, just raw remakes on the show.
No, it even looked like a True Grit when that was redone.
I love that you jumped to John
much
Wayne.
bigger differences.
I mean, Christ, this is the girly episode. John Wayne is not being brought up.
But it's so much. It's almost impressive. Also, it's somewhat. Boy, Tina Fey is just milking that original script.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
This really made me look kind of crooked at Tina Fey a little bit, because it was like, man, there's just nothing done new here.
Or it's hard to say nothing's done new though, because it is a musical.
Yeah, true.
And
true.
it is a musical. You know what I mean? So maybe that's enough. Maybe that could differentiate itself enough. And then also maybe it's like, well, no, we're 20 years later. Now the people who grew up with the original now have kids that are viewing age.
Right.
And this is a mother-daughter type thing now.
That's a good point. I actually like that angle quite a bit.
You know? And maybe the music just does a decent enough job to separate itself.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's a very good point. I didn't even consider kind of a parental angle, or that being the substance of 20 years later.
Right.
With this. But I will say, folks, I mean, after watching the original, the thought did occur to me that a musical might be a perfect match for the film. Many scenes were purely imaginary, taking place in Katie's head. Which now can be musical breakouts. I mean, what else is a musical good for anyway? After watching this, however, the musical spin, I think, just really ruined the structure and the pacing of the movie. So much so that the actual story feels like Cliff Notes on the original.
Oh, interesting.
On the original Mean Girls, and despite this being 30 minutes longer or 20 minutes longer, I don't know what the exact runtime. Nearly every aspect of the story I felt punch weaker to make room for songs that were just all right. That really is my full position on this film. I feel like the things that it skips by, a simpler parental moments, simpler moments, even just building the comedy with Katie and Tina Fey's teacher character. Simple moments even in the heist section of when they are trying to get the burn book from Regina George. All of these felt more compact to give real estate to these songs.
Yeah.
But also I feel like the comedy, the drama, the catty fun punched less because of it.
It was flatter.
Yeah, exactly. I would say a positive here is that Tina Fey is still writing coming off this successful Broadway show. And, to Tom's experience, to I think a lot of people's experience, if you didn't catch it in the sneaky marketing of many films trying to hide it, yes, this is a full-blown musical. This isn't even like half a musical. This is full-blown musical.
I didn't count how many numbers there were, but it had to be 8, something maybe?
8. Maybe, yeah.
Which
maybe
it's an
more.
hour and 50. The original was 137.
Yeah.
This one's 152,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
makes sense when you add those musical numbers in there. Then
True.
I think it was maybe 1 or 2 too many. I mean,
Yes.
Towards the end there was another one, and both of you and I were just like, "Oh my god,
boy.
geez, another one."
I totally agree. Yeah, it really was too much. I would say there's something about this huge wave of musicals we've seen. It just makes me wonder if they got a work around the writing strike by just hiring songwriters. I don't know if that was a loophole. But musically speaking, I found this to just be like just as weak as Wonka and even some of the Broadway bland shit from 2022. Straight up, just too many songs. And too many songs where there should be still comedic performances in it. Mean Girls is a very funny movie. It's not that it is lacking comedy. I just feel like almost how editing was my critique of the first Mean Girls. This one, the jokes get copped by musical performances being around every single corner.
Yeah.
Listen, folks, I don't mean to be too harsh in my critique of these soundtracks, especially when it could be more subject to taste, but I would consider myself a fan of musicals. I feel like I kind of need to draw a line in the sand on this, and to point to this, every February I do a Fred Astaire series of movies. Like, I like musicals. I'm just telling you, this new wave, starting in 2022, just feels like it is the bare minimum going on audio-wise. It prioritizes safe over sensational music numbers, and that really is my feeling about this one as well. Seriously, Mean Girls 2024 is really a beat-for-beat remake, as we've been saying, 20 years later, so comparison is bound to happen. But it's all the broad strokes. Katie moves from Africa, finds her 2 misfits friends, and quickly hatches a plan to take down the plastics. I would say the only real change here is the casting, some being very strong, others not so much. My main praise goes to Renee Rapp playing Regina George, which, again, I already commented was big shoes to fill. I feel like Renee really does a great job in this.
Yeah, I think she does, yeah.
It's also smart casting because she has a musical career outside of her acting, so I feel like that's a good match for the musical. I feel like that's a good match for the audience, and why we're seeing this be still very successful despite maybe the styling's not being everyone's flavor.
Yeah, did they grab her from the play? Like, was she attached to this Broadway?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I that was the first thing I looked at for all the cast. And I don't think I spotted a single one.
Okay.
But Broadway plays, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
It's not as documented as well when it comes to different renditions and fill-ins and things like that. I would say on the opposite side of the casting notes, I was not really hot on our main casting of Katie. It might seem like a stupid critique, but this was not mean enough. And I want to talk to the girl crowd that this movie is for. The reason why Mean Girls is so fun is because of like the catty gossipiness, the connivingness.
And the way, like you said, Lindsay Lohan can turn it up.
Yes.
She takes on that role really well.
She really is able, well, let me say this. She's able to work in the ways that Angry Rice isn't able to work. Angry Rice is able to work in the nerdy sense. Lindsay Lohan
Totally.
is able to work in the plastic sense. So
Here's how I was kind of putting it in my head here. So yeah, Angry Rice is her name. I don't think we've seen her much else, or at least on the podcast.
well, she's the
plays
kid in The Nice Guys, a must watch.
That's right. Yeah.
So I was kind of excited to see her on her own.
So she definitely comes across as soft voice and definitely nerdy. And I would say she's playing Jenna Fisher's child in this. Like, Jenna Fisher is the mom. And she totally, imagine if Jenna Fisher has a kid.
Right.
That's who is in this role.
Yep.
And that doesn't belong. Like, Pam from The Office can't be a bitch.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And that's kind of how I would say she does not ever put her. She never is a believable character as the school bitch.
Yeah, right. Or just the plastics, or the manipulative transformation that that happens here. There's just not enough of that transformation into her being a plastic, and part of that requires her to, be hated by the entire school.
Yeah.
I did not find her performance believable in the sense that this girl was hated. Was hated by the entire
she was
school.
always too soft-hearted.
Exactly.
And, too nice.
Yeah. So while it's not a terrible performance, I do think it's a miscast a little bit. And this was me even rooting for Rice. I think Rice worked in the ways that Lohan did not, but on the same exact coin, was lacking the bitchy plastic energy that makes the whole film enjoyable. It's why you watch it, kind of. I feel like the golden heart of Mean Girls is about preventing this girl on girl type of tearing each other down, and that comes eventually. But at the same time, the ride is all about just watching the catty gossip, the connivingness of it. So I think what surprised me most of all was how shallow that message was at the end. 20 years later, and I thought maybe this would have something to say, especially in the age of social media destroying lives and destroying teen girls' lives.
Most of all, yeah.
Broadway show or not, this could have adapted more for the times. And I found it particularly frustrating when the fact is we get a presence of TikTok in the musical only as a dance montage, but nothing to actually relate to the topic of these girls using TikTok, or maybe even adapting the Burn Book into a digital version.
I think that's a great point, Vin.
Yeah.
Especially with this coming out, the original coming out pre-social media.
Exactly.
They really could have roped it in. But I think it goes back to the thing of we're looking for more than just a beat for beat remake.
Exactly.
And that was not the purpose of this film.
Right.
This purpose was to just rinse and repeat with some music.
Right. And it even speaks to a Broadway. I feel like if something's going to get a Broadway adaptation, they're not going to be creatively changing things up about the story. It's just going to be adding musical to it.
Yeah, because like Broadway is, it's taking the original source piece and going after it. Now, when you're back to the film as a platform, it would have been nice to be improved upon or to modernize.
Yeah.
Not that the film didn't feel modern, but that is a great point, taking on the social media role, or just like how you could have kind of twisted the original, same exact story beats, different presentation.
Absolutely.
Great point.
Yeah, and it's also in that TikTok montage being so. Well, one, I have some issues with the editing of it, but I'm going to put myself aside because no one gives a about about how it's presented on screen. But like, it was so clearly just meant to trend online in the Mean Girls 2024 dance, whatever category of social media, that it just had no standing in the story of how I felt it should. And even if it's not meant to be the knife to turn for the message of the story, or to build drama in some way, or to be a plot device, I just feel like it was particularly tone deaf to not recognize it in some way. It was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where I return to my opening thoughts on this, and that while I didn't really like this film. I think I really believe in my critiques to this film, especially after doing the homework this week and watching at least Mean Girls 2004. It really just depends on what your skin in the game is on this one, folks. If you want the usual, if you want the Broadway flip, if you want the repeatability of it, go for it. But I felt on many levels the film came off as tone deaf, and I really mean that on many levels.
That's kind of funny.
We're gonna go ahead and give Mean Girls, the new one, 48.
Wow, a 48! Oh my gosh.
Starting off the year strong.
Yeah, this was our first 2024 film.
Yeah.
Mean Girls with the 48. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I was thinking maybe 50s, maybe keep it above that 50 mark for this episode. But okay, 48 for you, Vin. Well, you know the rules. The rules are if we see a film together in theaters, I have to rate it.
Draw me two shoes.
So I walked away from this film. I didn't hate this movie.
Okay.
Which surprised me.
Sure.
So I think your point is good where, I don't know, even with the numbers, the musical numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought this was going to be a hard no-go because of the musical numbers.
Well, I don't like musicals.
Yeah, you hate musicals.
I don't like musicals. You made a comment in the beginning saying, like, it can cut the humor, and it kind of just, like, stops the scene. It just kind of does its own thing. That's musicals to me. The goal of musicals is to make a worse movie, in my opinion. All musicals are worse than what they ought to be.
The deviation is not more value to the movie.
No.
Like, it's a distraction.
With very slight exceptions, or minimal exceptions. Yeah. So you're totally right with the humor is affected by it for sure. The first one is funnier.
Yes.
And I've not seen it in years, or most of it in years. But I know that.
I mean, this is a refresher practically for what hit previously.
That 04 has some good comedic bits that you really don't get with this one, and it doesn't bite as much. It doesn't have the teeth. You know, the meanness of the girls in Mean Girls was never quite there.
Yeah,
it's felt so much more in that original. As far as the number of songs that's used, if it is 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, honestly, by the end, you and I were just like, oh, here we go. I can't knock the film for it because, you know, it
was that dancing girl next to you.
But, no, it's supposed to be, when you say it's a full-on musical, I don't know if I want a half-baked musical.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like, if we're gonna have songs in the beginning, songs in the middle, you have to have songs at the end. Just because you and I sitting there are kind of tired of it by the end.
Sure.
And that's fine. That's whatever. So I can't knock it. So, and it's just a follow through for the film. It's trying to be something. It is that thing. Whether you and I like it, whether we're supposed to like it, I can't knock it for that. I can't take points away. You made a comment of it prioritizes visuals, I'm sorry. I wrote down something here that says it prioritizes visuals over lyrics, and that's where you were saying you had issues with some of the actual songwriting.
Yeah.
I didn't hate. I thought it could have been way more generic. Mm-hmm. You know, this was a step up of some Disney Channel TV movie thing. You know, it definitely had some legitimacy to it. The songs weren't all god-awful.
Yeah.
But you're right. The lyrics take a backseat. And I think really with the songs, it's about the visuals and the choreography going on.
Yes.
During. Yeah. Everything else isn't supposed to matter that much. So it's not a bad-looking film. And some of the stuff, you know, at times, I can only imagine, it was a lot to manage for a scene. Dealing with the skinny hallways of the school. You're in the house at the one party.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a tough thing to coordinate. The coordination was good. And some of those, I think, was more visually striking than what the words are ever going to mean. Also, you could kind of say that about Fred Astaire.
Okay.
With Fred Astaire, when you think back in the movies, are you humming the tunes the next day? Are you thinking about how much that guy is tapping away?
Fair point.
When you think about Fred Astaire films, you're just like, oh, that's the movie where he does this bit.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's not the song.
You don't think that's the movie with that song.
Right. Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
that's kind of where I lie with that. Overall, I don't need to return to this movie again. I think it effectively did what it needed to do. I almost like the fact that it's there, again, to the point of the girl next to me, watching it with her mom, who was probably a lover of the 04.
Yeah, the generational aspect. I think it's a great point you brought up.
So remakes are being made, and we've been talking about a lot lately, just the dredging up old IP. I'm not upset that they went back towards this 20 years later. I don't need to see it again. This gets a one shoe, no lace, with a smile. But with a smile, okay? This gets...
Wait.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was expecting a Tommy flip-flop, for one.
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
Not even close.
Okay, fantastic.
I mean, close technically on the scale, but not even close.
Right, close in the sense that they're all close.
You know where this really came down to?
Okay.
Well, it's because Napoleon got a shoe with a lace.
Yeah.
And this gets one shoe, no lace. And I sat it down and I had a real conversation with me. Is my frustration with Ridley Scott, the man, and how that product failed.
Yeah.
But what would I rather watch again? And it's like, I would rather watch Napoleon, so this can't be as good as that.
So it gets a smile.
So it
Maybe
gets
a smile
one
sticker.
shoe, no lace, but it gets a one shoe with a smile, I would say. And on a happy note.
Yeah, you're along for the ride.
And that's pretty much it. All right, Vin. So looking at these scores here, anything else you want to touch on? Anything for the coming weeks? Or roll credits here?
I mean, this was a fun week.
It was a fun week.
Like I said, I mean, even the fear in my heart was like, what am I? I'm just going to repeat myself for 5 movies over.
Not at all.
Right. And I was able to find enjoyment in these. So, maybe have some fun yourself, folks, and give these a watch. I would say for the coming, unfortunately, 2 weeks.
How is January looking?
Yeah, January is a little spooky. I'm a little scared. There's not a lot of things. We're probably going to touch on Beekeeper.
Okay.
I thought about, apparently Beekeeper is related to some other action movies, so I thought about maybe doing that. But
is some of the ones we talked about last week available even to see?
That's the biggest struggle.
The Cocoon Shell,
Yep.
and then the Polish painted film.
Yes, The Presence.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Inside the Yellow Cocoon Shell.
Yeah.
There's a decent movie called Origin coming out. I think that's A24. But until February, it's a little dicey. So,
and can you even find those those 3 we listed off there? See,
it's tough.
Yeah, it's such a shame.
I think it's the writing's on the wall in the sense that they know January's a shovel month already.
Terrible.
So do they try to compete for nothing, pennies as far as the
Right.
sharing the box office? Either way, I think these are the type of moments I get to watch what I want to watch. So I'm hoping to really make some exciting episodes and at least movies I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And then we have the nightcap of it's a movie.
Something fun. Yeah,
I had to cover this.
See, actually, that's what I do love about these couple months. It's Vin can there's gonna be good movies on the podcast,
right?
The fact that there's not that much in
good
the
movies
theater.
out. Yeah.
It makes it all worth it. So stick
Yeah.
with us through January, folks. It's gonna be a good time, and it's always good to tackle some of those. Always discuss lists that Vin have. I always just picture just things like trying to a detective with the string.
Oh
with
yeah,
the red string.
The
I open
board.
up one of,
Right. These are the Shakespeare ones. These are the it's the Cronenberg.
So we're excited. It's Vin's list month in January. But all right, Vin, thank you so much for watching all these films here, Vin. Thanks for stopping by tonight. Folks at home, we will run it down one more time. We have 10 Things I Hate About You with a 73%, Mean Girls with a 67, The Devil Wears Prada with a 65, Easy A with a 68, and finally, Mean Girls with a 48%. Folks, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast. Hey, if you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, give us a good rating or tell a friend about us. We'd certainly appreciate it. And just a reminder, folks, the Daily Ratings is also completely producer-supported. We want to stay away from advertising, and we don't want to have any paywalls or tier structures or subscriptions. It's all just value for value. So, are you finding value in any of the things we're doing here at the Daily Ratings? Then become a producer and donate whatever amount of value that is. Just go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com. And while you're there, you can check out all of the films we're adding to this site. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.